Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Butcher's Fresh Cuts, a proud part of the world's finest daily Brewers podcast network, the Miller Park Minute. And a big shout out to Eric over at the Miller Park Minute for all the hard work he puts in and day out, even throughout this long off season where news isn't particularly popping up every moment of the day. My name, of course, is The Butcher, and over here at the Fresh Cuts, we give you the meat and potatoes, the nitty-gritty, the deep dives and analysis that is served up weekly on Wednesdays, for the time being at least, and you'll be seeing a lot more of me as the season approaches. If you've been with us the last couple of weeks, you'll know that we've been just dissecting the Brewers roster, 40-man and beyond. And so far, we have explored the lineup and how we are feeling about that. Last week, we broke down Brewers' potential starting rotation, as well as some other guys who may make some starts. And today, we're going to be diving into the bullpen. The Brewers' bullpen was mid to mid-bad last season, falling far short of expectations set by the bullpens that we've seen here in Milwaukee in the past few seasons. We know that that's really been a strong suit for the team over the past few years, at least since about 2018, when Hader started his dominant streak. And again, when Devin Williams joined the team and started his dominant streak near the 2020 season. And last year was definitely a much lower bar than we've seen in seasons past. The bullpen ranked 17th in ERA minus at 97 and 16th in win probability added at 1.68. Now, ERA minus is a Park League adjusted version of ERA where 100 is always league average, much like the other stats like OPS plus that you'll see around there. The Brewers bullpen also ranked 17th in team ERA at 3.94, just behind the Minnesota Twins. They ranked 19th in WAR at 2.5, just behind the San Francisco Giants. So for further reference, the Dodgers bullpen itself was first ranked in baseball with an ERA of 8.6 WAR. Much more WAR than the Brewers' 2.5. Dodgers have a lights-out bullpen. And yeah, that's just for comparison's sake. The Brewers not anywhere close to that. This bullpen was also as unreliable as any we have probably seen over the Craig Counsell era in Milwaukee. The pen had the seventh worst negative win probability added total at negative 50.26, meaning that when they came in the game, they made it harder for the team to win more often than not than easier. The pen was the third highest in blown saves at 29. 8 of which came after July 13th, which is when Josh Hader's midseason slump began, before eventually completely collapsing before his trade to the San Diego Padres. The pen also didn't throw hard in 2022 either, which may have contributed to some of their lack of productivity out there. With its average fastball velocity sitting at 92.6 miles per hour, good for 28th out of 30 teams in Major League Baseball. For reference, fastballs thrown below 95 miles per hour were hit at a 273 clip in 2022 at a 15.51 strikeout rate. Fastballs above 95 miles per hour were hit at a 240 clip, good for a 24.3% strikeout rate, meaning that in today's baseball, the harder you throw, especially with relief pitching, you're going to typically have better results. 39.6% of fastballs by relievers in 2022 were thrown at least 95 miles per hour, showing that illustrates that around the league that's what teams are looking for in relief pitching, and that's what's been effective around the league in relief pitching. And the Brewers were 24th in that category at a 28.8% rate. Again, dumpster, bottom of the league in that category. They tried to rely on a lot of breaking stuff, a lot of deceptive pitching, but it didn't seem to be working out. And when you lost Josh Hader, that's losing another guy whose average fastball tops off well above 95. The Brewers front office made significant changes in this offseason in an effort to throw much harder fastballs this upcoming season. 8 of the bullpen candidates for 2023 now have an average of at least 95 miles per hour on their fastball, and some of those 8 are new acquisitions made by this team in the offseason. We will be talking about most, if not all, of these pieces in today's video as we go on, but some of those names we'll include him, Javi Guerra, who throws a new four-seam fastball and who throws 97.9% of his heaters above 95 miles per hour, so check that box. He's one of them. Elvis Peguero throws a hard, low to mid-90s slider. as well as a fastball, and he's another hard-throwing pitcher. Joel Payamps sits around 93 to 95, but he can definitely max out much higher than 95, so he's a guy who's sitting right around that 95 average range. Abner Uribe may make some appearances for the Crew, and he was recently added to the 40-man roster, and he throws all of his heaters above 95 and could be a fastball force for the bullpen in the upcoming season. And I think we will see Uribe at some point this season, and I think he'll be an effective piece. And with all this being said, the Brewers bullpen was a huge focus for the front office after season's end, where to the naked eye it may appear that the team didn't really do too much to improve this offseason, but the bullpen, we may have made some significant improvements there, especially when it comes to velocity, which may be proved to be an advantage for the pen coming into the season. And now with Boxberger and Brent Suter now out the door, and thankfully so, and Hader now long gone, let's dive into the Brewers' new look bullpen for 2023. And when talking about the Brewers bullpen, there is no better place to start, and there's no better relief pitcher in the NL Central and possibly beyond there than to begin with Devin Williams. Devin Williams has been the best setup man in all of baseball for years, and in 2022, after the Brewers' surprise trade of Josh Hader, he had a chance to be the sole closer for the first time in his career. And in 2023, he will have a full season to put on a show in that role. In 2022, Devin Williams was once again as dominant as any reliever in baseball, giving us reason to believe that he will excel as the closer role in 2023. In 2022, Williams had a career high in innings worked at 60 and 2/3 and a career low in full season ERA at 1.93. I don't count 2020 as a full season, of course. This last year he had a 1.01 walks and hits and innings pitch, 15 saves, and 96 strikeouts tossed. And when looking at the advanced statistics, Dev ranked first in all of baseball in expected batting average, and that's a batting average not factoring in defensive placement, park factor, and other things. He was first in expected slugging percentage, and he also had the lowest barrel percentage in all of baseball in 2022, meaning he's a very, very effective pitcher. And going even deeper, since Devin Williams' debut in 2019, out of 334 pitchers with at least 150 innings pitched, only Josh Hader and Edwin Diaz have a higher strikeout percentage at 39.5% for Dev. Granted, Williams gave up more walks last year than anyone would have liked, but the strikeout numbers alone and that nasty changeup that is probably still the best in all of baseball have me feeling just fine about his walk rate and his ability to correct it. Williams started off like many Brewers pitchers, really shaky and slow to start the 2022 season. By the middle of May, Williams had an ERA sitting at 5.73 and had an especially bad appearance against the Reds in May, giving up 3 runs. And following that, Williams went off and became closer to the Devin Williams that we knew of 2020 when he went off. And in his next 30 appearances, he gave up 0 runs, and he lowered that ERA down to 1.59 all the way from that 5.73. Williams also pitched a scoreless inning in the All-Star game, which was awesome, in his first ever appearance in the Midsummer Classic. Following the Hader trade, Williams made 22 appearances, went 4 for 4 with a 2.57 ERA over 21 innings, and racked up 9 saves. He also made 12 appearances in 2022 with 3 strikeouts and no runs allowed, and 7 of those were 1-2-3 innings. That's what you want as a reliever. You either want that 1-2-3 inning, or you want the 3 strikeouts, and those appearances are basically like a shutout appearance for a starter, a 6-inning shutout, quality appearance, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's about as close. That's what relievers are going for. They're going for those 1-2-3 innings. They're going for no runs allowed. And he had 12 of those appearances in 2022. The guy has just been absolutely dominant. He's been a near perfect relief pitcher his entire time in the major leagues. I firmly believe that we kept the right pitcher if you want to choose between Devin Williams and Josh Hader. I believe we kept the right guy. He only appears to be getting sharper as he racks up more innings in the show. And now that he's the closer, he has the chance to show the world his best while the lights are even more bright. We should all feel extremely good about Devin Williams as our closer in 2023. And it may be hard to forget Josh Hader's glowing locks flowing about as he punches out yet another shook hitter in the box. but we should sit back and get accustomed to Dev's swag and poise as he molds into the role that was practically designed for him. We're in good hands with old Dev. Next. With the Brewers parting ways with two key pieces of the bullpen over the past number of years, and Brad Boxberger, who is now pitching on the north side with the Cubby Bears, and Brent Suter is now with the Rockies, the crew will need to see a lot more innings out of some guys who have shown a little bit of something last year, and one of those guys being Peter Strzelecki. Strzelecki was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Milwaukee Brewers after the 2018 draft. He rose up through the minors, culminating a nice chunk of time spent in early 2022, where he pitched 31.2 innings for Nashville to a 2.04 ERA, a whip of 0.88, and a monster strikeout rate of 41.7. Monster number. His performance drove the big league club to finally promote Pete on June 2nd of last season. And Big Pete pitched well in the show last year for the Brewers, racking up an ERA of 2.83 and a whip of 1.23, giving up just 11 earned runs and striking out 40 in 35 innings. He sports a three-pitch mix headlined by his four-seam fastball with a slider and changeup mixed in. He has impressive strikeout rates and gave up just 2 dingers in 30 appearances at the big league level last year, having just a limited amount of time to pitch to big league hitters. Expect to see a lot more of old Big Pete in 2023. His stuff has lined him up for at least double the innings pitched last season, and projections expect him to have a nice season. Fangraphs projects him to pitch the third most innings for the bullpen in 2023 and to have a positive season with a near 10% strikeout rate. He's one of those guys I mentioned earlier who do not throw fastballs above 95. And with a lack of a defensive shift, guys like Strzelecki are going to have to rely on their deceptive stuff to throw off hitters and keep them from putting the balls in play. Next, moving on, another less familiar piece who made some appearances last season for the crew but is projected to make many more this season is soon-to-be 37-year-old Matt Bush. Matt Bush is a player who, if you don't know him, he had a long and interesting career to say the least. He was drafted number 1 overall in the 2004 Major League Baseball draft by the San Diego Padres, a long time ago. Due to personal and legal problems, however, Bush did not make his Major League debut until May 13th of 2016 for the Texas Rangers, 12 years after being the first pick in the draft. We could do an entire episode on breaking down the career of Matt Bush, and I might want to do that one day, honestly, as it's a story of a man who turned his life around despite the embarrassment of being at the top of the world and having that same world crash down around you by the perils of your own making. And I feel for Matt Bush, honestly, and I enjoy watching him pitch. But back to the numbers in his career. Since coming up to the bigs in 2016, Matt Bush has been an above-average pitcher, racking up 2.5 baseball reference WAR and a 3.45 ERA, 217 strikeouts, 14 saves, and a 1.18 whip over 202/3 big league innings pitched. In 2022, in his age 36 season, Matt Bush continued to be a serviceable bullpen arm and even made some opener starts for the Rangers, and he racked up a 3.47 ERA in 59 2/3 innings, with 23 of those innings coming in the back half of the season in relief for the Milwaukee Brewers. Those innings don't necessarily jump off the page with the Brewers, but he did have an 11.3 strikeout rate in his time with the team, and we are going to need a good deal of innings from Bush. Baseball Reference projects a nice season from him, and they have him sitting at a 3.88 ERA, logging 58 innings and striking out 60. I don't have the highest expectations personally for Matt Bush this season, though I do love watching him pitch, as he has dealt with a number of injuries in this late point in his career. And with the new offensive-minded rules in place and the division improving around us, Matt Bush is going to have to give it hell this year to be the pitcher that we're looking for in him. But he really has been a good pitcher in his time in the big leagues. So let's all just hope and pray for a good season out of Matty Bush. Next, we're going to talk about Jake Cousins. I'm happy to talk about Jake Cousins. Cousins is a dude. He is a dude. He's a low-key steal that the Brewers acquired back in 2019 when the front office purchased his contract from the Nats. He has been lights out since joining the Brewers organization, all the way up the ranks, and after making his big league debut in June of 2021, he didn't allow an earned run until his 18th appearance. He was just fire when he came up. I hope you guys remember that. Jake Cousins has been a stud. In his 43 and a third innings of big league pitching, he has accumulated a 2.70 ERA. He struck out 58 batters to just 27 walks and has an ERA plus of 153, which is well over that 100 league average line, and he sports a 13.5 strikeout rate. 13.5%. Jake Cousins relies mainly on a slider and a sinker that reaches about 95 and a four-seam fastball. That four-seam fastball, getting back to what we talked about in the intro, is a pitch that Jake Cousins throws over 95 almost 80% of the time, with his average fastball rate sitting at 95.7 miles per hour, meaning he's exactly the type of pitcher the Brewers like for their pen going into 2023. Cousins was injured for a large portion of 2022, suffering from a UCL injury in his throwing elbow that put him on the shelf for 3 months. He logged just 13 and a third innings for the Crew back in 2022 last season, but struck out 21 batters to just 8 walks and gave up just 1 home run. Jake Cousins, he's a legitimate baller, and he's going to give the team at least 50 innings in 2021. Call that right now. We have no reason to believe that he isn't going to maintain the trajectory that he's been on with his nasty four-seamer and his slider that leaves batters feeling uncomfortable at the plate. Look out for another great season from Jake Cousins in 2023. Let's hope he can stay healthy. Let's hope that elbow's doing good. Next, we're going to talk about Holby Milner. Holby Milner is a guy who really had his best season of his career in 2022, outside of his 31 innings that he pitched back in 2017. In 2022, he had a career high 64 and 2/3 innings with a 3.76 ERA, striking out 64 and walking just 15. Milner is a pitch-to-contact guy, and his true strength is in the fact that he rarely gives up free passes. Last season, he sported a massive 4.27 strikeout-to-walk ratio, and in his career, that sits at 3.04, putting him well above league average. He also never gives up ding-dongs, giving up just 5 last season, with a career-high 1.5 home runs per 9 innings ratio for his career. One interesting fact about Holby Milner is that, and that I was happy to come up with this, was a little nugget when I was scrolling through articles. Up until early last season, I believe it was late April, Holby Milner had never recorded a win or a loss in his major league career. After 6 seasons, his win loss are coming in after 5 seasons coming into the season last season. No, it was 6 seasons. His win-loss record sat at 0-0. That was a major league record. He finally finished the season with a 3-3 record, making up for a lot of lost time. But now he can finally say he's in the books. So Holby Milner, he was 0-0. We look at pitchers' win-loss records. Granted, he's a bullpen pitcher, and a lot of those win-loss records can be kind of arbitrary. People don't really take them into account. Jacob deGrom won a Cy Young with a 10-9 record at one point because they're not really recognized as like big stats. But I mean, he was 0-0 for 6 seasons. Holby Milner, fun stat. Holby Milner, he's a serviceable innings eater, nothing more, nothing less. He's a guy, and he's going to give us some innings, for better or worse. Milner isn't the type of guy to give us a lot of flash as a middle reliever, but he's projected to give us around 50-60 innings to a 4.05 ERA. That's what the projections say. I think we will see in that ERA closer to a 3.7 range. I think he has some stuff. And I think he's got some stuff that makes hitters feel shaky. And I think we can see some nice, quiet, effective innings out of Holby Milner in 2023. Next up is Javi Guerra. I'm excited about Javi Guerra. How Javi Guerra is going to be used in the pen this year is yet to be seen, and how much he will be used is also yet a question. Since debuting as a pitcher in 2019, Javi has never pitched more than 18 innings in a season in the big leagues, and those big league numbers don't paint much of a consistent picture as to the pitcher that Javi's going to be. Javi Guerra has pitched in the big league since 2019, but made his big league debut as a shortstop with the Padres in May of 2018. He has struggled making it as a shortstop throughout his time in the minor leagues, with the Red Sox and the Padres, batting just .237 in 583 games through 2018 in the minor leagues. The Padres finally gave him a shot in 2018 and gave him 16 at-bats for his cup of coffee in the big leagues, and he batted just .125 and got one ribby. During 2019 spring training, the Padres decided that we're going to throw the okie doke on old Javi Guerra here, and we're going to convert him to be a relief pitcher. I mean, if you're going to stick a guy who's in any position to be a pitcher, it's potentially going to be a shortstop. They typically have insane arms. They're one of the best arms, if not the best arms on the field. If you look at how the San Diego Padres are currently making up their team, they're just throwing every shortstop that they can find and throwing a lot of money at them and sticking them on a position on the field. I think you could say that they have 5 to 6 guys in their starting lineup for 2023, if you include Tatis, that all came up or spent a very significant chunk of their career at shortstop, and they're oftentimes the best athletes on the field. So in this situation, it was kind of the same thing, and the Padres pulling one of those same kind of things that they're doing now. He was eventually moved to the Tampa Bay Rays in April of 2022 for cash considerations and pitched poorly with the big league club, and it was eventually DFA'd, only to clear waivers and ended up in the minors. The minor league affiliate for the Tampa Bay Rays, AAA, the Durham Bulls, made famous by, of course, the movie Bull Durham. In his time at Durham, he put it all together, pitching 41 and a third innings to a 1.74 ERA and a 0.87 walks and hits in innings pitched, and was awarded with the Rays Minor League Pitcher of the Year. The former shortstop has a lot of upside coming into the season, and the majority of that can be attributed to his four-seam fastball, as we are seeing a trend, as attributed to his four-seam fastball. We're seeing a trend with these pitchers here, like I mentioned in the beginning, and here's another new guy, throws a lot of high fastballs, a lot of above 95 mile per hour stuff. He fits right into that mold that we're kind of seeing that the Brewers are trying to put together with the bullpen, with the lack of Josh Hader's and speed back there. The pitch averages, that four-seam fastball averages around 98.4 miles per hour. That's a heater, and it generates a 30% whiff rate, and batters cannot get on base against it, recording just a 0.082 weighted on base average against it. He can hit 100 miles per hour with the fastball, and he features a short extension on his delivery, which makes him an explosive pitcher off the mound that hitters aren't typically used to seeing. Guerra is also a fly ball pitcher that will bowl well in the conditions for 2023 and the new rules banning the offensive shift. Javi Guerra is a pitcher with high upside, though has little track record to his name to back him up. He's yet another piece in the bullpen built around high-velocity fastballs. And I look forward to seeing Javi give us some real innings this year to see what he can bring to the table. I haven't gone over everyone who will be taking on innings for the Brewers bullpen in this video. We will also see contributions from guys such as Joel Payams, righty Elvis Peguero, righty Abner Uribe, like I talked about, Jason Alexander, and guys who will also make starts for the team and bullpen appearances such as Wade Miley, Ethan Small, possibly even Adrian Hauser. And I also plan to talk about those guys in more detail as this bullpen starts to take shape and develop into the unit that we will be carrying us through the season. So I highlighted a lot of the guys who I think will be making the main chunks of inning, the 60-plus inning kind of guys that we're going to see for the team this year. And as spring training approaches and we start to see who's really going to make the cut for this team, we'll dive into some of those other players in more depth at that point. But this bullpen appears to be an improvement on last year's unit, and I believe we can say that all three main facets of the ball club have improved. The bullpen has gotten younger, and it's full of faces that most Brewers fans don't know of very well or at all. They have a defining characteristic, and that is the fastball, as well as the nucleus of the bullpen that is Devin Williams and his air-bending changeup. The team is trying to combat the rule changes, as well as the loss of Josh Hader. This unit may be shaky to begin the year, but look for it to become a strength as the season goes on. Much like the bullpen, this team's roster has improved by at least a small margin over the last year. It may not translate to more wins necessarily, as the teams as teams like the Cubs have improved by possibly a larger margin, and the Pirates, though often terrible, they have some young studs and things that are beginning to take shape over in Pittsburgh. And the Cardinals themselves have only gotten better. So understand this as I sit here and tell you that the team has improved, and I think every facet. I think in the bullpen, I think in starting pitching, and I think in the lineup, we've improved in all those areas. But truly, that may not translate to more wins. We are now playing all 29 other teams this year. Our division has improved, and though we have improved, we still may not make the playoffs. But I think we have a better shot going into this season than we did going into last season. And the front office went out not intending to spend any money, and I think that's very clear. And for what that reason is, we have yet to see. But in spending nothing, they still found a way to improve the roster. And with that, I'm the Butcher. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment below, and stay tuned for all things Miller Park Minute. And here's Eric, so we're going to keep rocking, I think, over here.
So, breaking news.
Yeah.
Broke before you actually started recording this podcast. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I got you.
Good. So, Brian Anderson, broadcaster, signed a major league deal to play infield and outfield for the Milwaukee. Oh, no. It's Brian Anderson from Miami signed a deal with the Brew Crew.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
A guy who had a lot of upside early in his career, a lot of hype about him, but a guy who really hasn't translated to the big league.
But you talked about in your very awesome infield video that you did, and position player video, I guess we should say. You talked about OPS. His career OPS is actually 750. So
which today is like, that's the new 800 essentially. 750 is kind of the new 800. It's
right.
Kind of the new benchmark that they try to get to.
He was down a little bit last year, but not much. I mean,
I guess that he's got a high on base average. That's for sure. I mean, not the greatest slugging numbers, but the guy gets on base a lot, kind of like the player Christian Yelich seems to try to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice ad. I was actually excited to see it. At first, when you sent it, I was like, Brian Anderson, what? And then I'm like, oh yeah, Brian Anderson, yeah.
I remember him being a huge deal for Miami, back when they got him, and I know he was a high draft pick, I think.
Miami's quietly selling again, bud.
Yeah. Well,
did you see the other news?
What's that?
We'll scroll up on the page on trade rumors, and the Cards. Actually, I'm sorry. The Cards are not in it. The Cards were in on Pablo Lopez.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Now it's changed to the Marlins and Twins discussing trade possibilities involving Luis Ariz and Pablo Lopez.
Dude, they can't do that to Luis Ariz. Send him down to Miami, man. That poor guy. The guy's always consistently at the top of the league in batting average. That guy gets on base more than anyone in all of baseball. He's just a freaking baller. I'd hate to see him go to Miami to watch his career die.
And I thought they lost, or I thought they're in. I think they're in arbitration with him. I don't think they were paired up in arbitration. I don't think their numbers were right on.
Yeah,
I thought I heard that earlier today. And another one. This to me is interesting. I thought the guy was out of baseball because the not showing up to play to practice for the playoffs. Aroldis Chapman. Miami has interest in him.
Why? Well, I mean, honestly, why would anyone have interest in Aroldis Chapman anymore?
Why would you want somebody like that?
He's a clubhouse cancer. He's clearly an ego kind of guy, and every relief pitcher throws 98 plus all the time now. I mean, I just talked about a couple guys who we have on our pen who are not even considered anybody yet, who are throwing 98 mile per hour plus on a regular basis, topping over 100. I mean, and Chapman can't really hit those 102 plus anymore, not on a regular basis and not accurately.
That's so confusing. Why? But Why did Miami pop up out of the woodworks and get involved in all this stuff?
I don't know. Maybe they got a lot of pissed off fans there, and they're like, we got to do something because we have Sandy here, a Cy Young winner, and we got nothing at all around him. I mean, they have a great pitching staff. I mean, Pablo Lopez is dope too. But
They're in contact with Yuri Gurriel too.
Yeah.
Or Yuli, not Yuri. I'm sorry.
They're going after Yuli.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's what, 38 years old?
Yeah.
They're just trying to fill a couple seats while they got.
They want those at least 6 of those fans to be somewhat pleased that they made some attempts.
6 out of the 12 fans that show up to Miami Marlins games. We should go to a Marlins game. Hey, I got a question for you.
That would be great. Yeah.
So, are we going to that thing tomorrow night?
I was gonna try and make an attempt.
Because I'm kind of free. Maybe we can do this Miller Park Minute field trip tomorrow night.
On the road.
On the road again.
Video from the road. Yeah, I cracked a rim on my car, so I'm trying to get that replaced. But I was gonna see how tomorrow goes with that.
Okay. Maybe we'll talk more off air about it. But I mean,
that's fine.
I'm considering it. Let's go meet some Brewers.
And it's all the good ones too. Like it's actually a good, like Garrett Mitchell. That's cool. Freddie Peralta, Willie Adames.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah, I said I want to meet Garrett.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. That's one I haven't seen yet. And then that Owen Miller guy is gonna be there too.
Yeah.
New update though, and another good reason I came live to talk about Brian Anderson, the player, not the announcer. This is gonna be fun. This will actually be great. The dynamic, and just imagine how funny BA is going to be with it too. I think that's going to be a real hilarious dynamic. So it's MillerParkMinute.com, the new official website of the Miller Park Minute podcast.
What?
Yeah, it's all fancy. It's got some pictures up. I do not have. So if you just look at the front page is finished. The rest, there's some broken links in there. So just you can click the links on the front page and you can show it off. Our mugs are on there. I put some pictures up there. I even got that picture of us from the playoffs.
Yeah.
I was drunk as a skunk.
I love that day. The only win we got in the playoffs that year.
Yes. We were at that game live. But yeah, man, I appreciate what you're doing here. Every week I sit down and I listen to you when I'm live in the background. I sneak in all the time. But I mean, I listen to them the next day. I listen to each show about 2 to 3 times, just to kind of hear any things that I would look forward to correcting, like the quality or that's how my mind works with these things, because of my background, obviously. But man, I'm having so much fun with this. It's been so good. These people I've been getting on have just been so willing. I've got my hands in a bunch of conversations right now with other guests, maybe some players. We're working on some stuff. That's all going on behind the scenes that I can't really talk about, but it's there. It's there. It's just, it's not fully ready to launch yet. So
the wheels are turning.
We're turning. We're turning this thing out as the season gets better, or closer, I should say. And this WBC, this is gonna pan out. I was listening to now I can't remember which podcast it was talking about. Did you know Jake Arrieta has a podcast too?
Yes, he does. I've seen quite a few clips from his. I like his stuff.
He's very intelligent. It's very educational and interesting. Just because he gives that player perspective. Like if there are more player podcasters, I feel like the space would be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I would love to hear more players' perspectives on the game and just some of that insider stuff. Like, what's it like in the clubhouse? Do guys get along? Like, who are some guys that you didn't like? Like, why? Like, I'd love to hear some more info on that.
Stories, just the stories of that one time I beamed him type of deal, or
Yeah, that's
You know who'd be a good podcaster?
Who's
Now
that?
he does photography,
Oh,
and
Randy
his
Johnson.
logo's that bird
Yeah.
that he blew up. I mean,
Yep.
come on. Let's
That's
put that guy on a podcast with Greg Maddox and see what those two have to say. Oh, anyways. Got anything else to add? Or we
No, I got to get out of here for the night.
all right. So
But everyone check out the website, the new website.
Yes, go over to millerparkminute.com.
Exciting stuff.
And send me a bio picture and some bio info so I can put it on there for what you want.
Just go on my OnlyFans like everyone else.
Yeah, that's true, but then I got to pay.
Yeah,
I prefer it for free. I prefer it for free. Yeah, send me that code. I want that code. Miller Park Minute at what's that? Let's flop that up there real quick. Hey, go to SeatGeek and put in the code Miller Park Minute right down there. And save $20 on your first purchase with SeatGeek. So there, we even got an ad read in.
I like that.
Bang. All right. So that being said, this is Eric and the Butcher, and this has been the Miller Park Minute. We'll catch you in the next episode, guys. Thanks for watching, and go Brewers.
Soup pitch great.
Don't mind the plate. See you, buddy.
Later.
Thank you for watching the Miller Park Minute. Go Brewers.